audio's good.
I'll let you know. That's the other thing. I am determined to get a new computer desk.
Good.
Audio is good.
Good.
And a boom arm for my freaking mic.
Yeah.
And just finally get a comfortable setup. New chair. I'm getting new everything. Getting a new monitor too.
You know what's funny is the thing that was great for me was the chair. That's the like the linchpin for me. It's what holds everything together.
Amen to that.
Because my other one was like really old. I didn't even realize how long I had it. I mean, I probably bought that thing. I guess it was after I left Valdosta.
When we were in college?
No, I think it was right after that. Like probably. So it would have been like at the beginning of 2016, and I just bought a new chair like a couple months ago. It's like what, 8 years or something. It was falling apart, dude. I was gonna do something and now I forgot what I was doing. Okay, almost ready.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be afraid to spin on making my setup comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you don't have to, you never have to go like crazy. I think that's the problem that people have when they start trying to do like YouTube or podcasting or whatever. Like they'll just go nuts. And I think we had talked about it when we first started, and I told you, I was like, just like spend the money on the mic, and everything else, it's kind of an afterthought to some degree.
Yeah.
As long as the audio sounds good, everything else can be worked on over time. Oh, cool. Yeah. You got to it before I did. I was about to tell everybody we were live. So, yeah.
But now I can spin up on stuff, and because I did get to the mic first, like you said, and everything else came secondary. But now I'm going to get my computer a little nicer, get my audio interface maybe a little nicer, get my monitors a little bit nicer. Well, one of my monitors a little bit nicer. And the main thing, though, is I'm going to get me a nice computer desk and a nice chair.
Yeah. Dude, I've probably changed my setup 10 times since we started the podcast, if not more than that. Like I'm constantly like tweaking or changing things or being annoyed with something, so trying to remove it and see if that works. Like at one point I went down to like 2 monitors for a little while, and then I kind of ended up hating it, so I went back to 3. You just you kind of mess with stuff until things work out. But now that the show has started, Joseph, it turns out that the entire plot for Intergalactic may have leaked. So I'm just going to read the entire thing. I'm joking, but it did leak. It did allegedly leak. And
who leaked it? Jada Pinkett Smith?
I don't. Let me check real quick and see if they.
Come on, that was a good joke with the.
Let's see. The full plot.
I did when I first saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh, they used Jada Pinkett Smith." I was like, that's literally what I thought at first. And I was like, "Oh, that's not her."
The full plot for Intergalactic just got leaked. Plot and gameplay details below was sent to a handful of gaming journalists. The most notable was Jason Schreier.
Oh, yeah, I know Jason.
But they are debating whether or not to share it. The leaker is supposedly a disgruntled Naughty Dog staff member who hates the direction the company is going as Druckmann gets more powerful and influential. Part of the reason why Schreier is hesitant to give the okay. My friend in an executive gaming journalist Discord server sent me this summary of leaks. I've read the whole thing. I mean, it's a little different than when the plot got leaked for The Last of Us 2, because people were very, very much anticipating that, and I don't think, as we'll get into today, that people feel quite the same way about Intergalactic. I have watched the trailer. Now, I guess I should mention this. I am like what I was. Naughty Dog is kind of similar to Star Wars for me. I once was a massive fan of the studio. From not so much Crash Bandicoot back in the day. I mean, like Crash Bandicoot existed, but like it's not Mario, guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Jack and Daxter, Uncharted, The Last of Us, they like really hit their stride, and they've made some incredible games in the past. They've done a lot for the industry. And then The Last of Us 2 came out, and kind of changed things significantly. And I've been poring over a lot of this stuff for Intergalactic. I can't help it because now my news feed is full of it. Because like when the Game Awards happened, like you sent me stuff, and then we talked about this last week, but like the way that X basically works now is that if you interact with anything positively or negatively, more stuff like that is going to show up in your feed.
That's all you're going to get.
Yeah, so it's all over my feed, and it's like both sides of the discussion. I had to troll a little bit with the thumbnail, the thumbnail for tonight. But yeah, I don't know yet, man. I don't have to like
generic to me.
Yeah, I don't have to really explain much to you because like I talk about it a lot. I think The Last of Us 2's pretty like unimpressive.
Yep.
I think visually, I started streaming it again. I started last year and got back to it, and I think that, like on a technical, like on a technical level, Naughty Dog is like unbeat. There are very few studios that are putting out graphically, and even like their audio, like the motion capture stuff that they do. You can't deny. Like it's impossible to look at that and deny. It's sort of like what's been going on with Arcane. You can't look at Arcane and be like, oh no, it's ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yep.
Like like from a graphic standpoint, they are definitely pushing what's possible with hardware. They kind of always have. That's been one of their major roles working for Sony, is that like they're always pushing the hardware. They're one of those teams that like they're gonna keep doing that. Now, what that does to some of their gameplay as time has gone on, I typically find, especially The Last of Us, to have like pretty unimpressive gameplay. 2 is like hysterical, dude. Like I found some really interesting things playing through it, whatever day that was last week, Friday maybe. Friday or Saturday. Was it Saturday?
Yeah, that's all the notification popped up on my phone.
And it's crazy, dude. Like this is like a relevant problem in the industry in general, but a lot of modern games have this problem about like if you don't play the game the way that is kind of like expected of you to play it. Like if you try to kind of go outside the bounds and be like, okay, well, what if I just do this? You can kind of break the game.
Right.
And I did it quite a few times. Like there's, and sometimes you have to, it takes like multiple tries to kind of get it right. Like, but for instance, like there's a lot of these sort of like dark, dingy parts of The Last of Us 2 where you're trying to get away from the infected, and you can literally just sprint through the area and like out a window and just avoid the encounters. And dude, I'm playing on what was originally the hardest difficulty. So I'm on, I think it's veteran, and then there's a difficulty, I think it's called crushing in The Last of Us. That's what it was in Uncharted, but I think it's crushing difficulty. So essentially, like I've got it ramped up as high as it can go for like regular gameplay. That's what the game launched with as far as difficulty is concerned. So that's what I wanted to mess around with during the playthrough. And yeah, dude, it's like there's some stuff that like combat's kind of unavoidable, which is kind of another problem in the game, because people literally I found a tweet a couple days ago where someone was like, The Last of Us The Last of Us 2 has the best stealth from like the PS4 generation when it launched.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not even as good as Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, it's not even close. Yeah. Dude, you can't even hide bodies in The Last of Us 2. Like, you stealth people, and you can't move them into a place where they're probably not going to be seen by the other NPCs. So their body sits there, and then you have to now try to make it through the level, or like the specific part of the level that you're on, before they find the body, get alerted, and everything basically boils down into a gunfight. So stealth is like an afterthought in the game, and there's people out there being like, "Oh no, it's like, it's like the best, like it's so good," and you're just like, "It's not though." Like let's
be honest.
Yeah, the term that I've been using since I started playing it again is like the gameplay is like serviceable. So it's the same way for the first game. Like it works to help the story go along, and it's good enough, and certain aspects of it, like how brutal like the takedowns and stuff are, and the combat in general, how brutal it is. Yeah, they're kind of using all of that dressing as a way for you to not really be paying attention as close, I think. But when you kind of like get into the combat and like the way that enemy AI works in a lot of situations, it's pretty bare bones, and it just kind of works. And then sometimes it doesn't and it breaks. Or you can use certain mechanics that you're not really supposed to just completely avoid encounters in general. There's a spot, I gotta clip it at some point. But you're chasing one of the characters who is responsible for killing Joel through this hospital. And I was chasing her through there, and I had this like thought that just sort of popped into my head in the middle of chasing her, that I was like, what if I just like stopped? Because you chase her, and then you run into this one room, and you see her in the distance, and she's telling other members of Wolf to like she's like, shoot her, right? And just so like to set this up for you, like I literally have a sliver of health left. Like I have no health. I don't have health kits to like recover. And the first time I run through there, I kind of take this path that's like right underneath all of the people who are trying to shoot at me, to avoid them. So like they can't aim at me. And I'm running through the door right after I did that. I was like, cool, I got through that part. And I stop and I go, wait. I was like, can they actually like hit me? I don't know what came over me in the moment, but it was just like, I'd been trying out like a lot of the mechanics to see how things were working before that. So I was like, well, maybe let's just see. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I've died like 100 times already. Like, let me just go check it. And so I like walk in there, and at first I'm like, they're shooting at me, and I'm like, wait, they're not hitting me. And I was like, oh man, that's really weird. I was like, they're not hitting me. Well, you have a time limit there, so it probably takes 45 seconds or so. And if you just stop there for whatever reason, the game tries to basically is just like, oh, you didn't catch up with her, so you failed the section. And I was like, okay, well, at least they put something there. I mean, like, it's sort of weird. It doesn't really make sense that that's the way that whole scenario like works. That if for whatever reason in this one section, like you stop, it's just like, oh, you got too far away from her, like you have to do it again. And it starts you right back at that spot. And so I was like, okay, let me test this again. I was like, can they really not hit me? And so I just run out there and I sit there. Joseph, I kid you not. They can hit you with bullets. And so like Ellie is taking you can see physically like on her character model where she's getting hit with bullets. It's not doing any damage.
Interesting. That's really interesting. But you made a point earlier that I want to go back to, which is like on a technical level, it looks visually stunning. But with as much money that's behind a AAA game, it's kind of, what we say about the Rings of Power or certain TV shows and movies that have a huge budget committed to it, like the Marvel movies, for example. They better look good with that amount of money. That's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's more to games, there's more to movies, there's more to TV shows than just mere graphics.
Yeah.
And what they look like. Important, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to make someone love your game or movie or TV show.
Yeah, well, it will for some people, unfortunately. It's weird though. Tevin,
a majority of people.
Tevin was asking if I'm going to 100% The Last of Us 2. Tevin, I'm thinking about it just so that I can use that as like a thing. If anyone's like, well, what do you really know? It's like I have the platinum. I was like, I've played the game plenty. I was like, would you like to see my notes? Like, I have a lot of notes about it. What's up, Jenna? Yeah, Jenna was hanging out the other night too in the chat. I did, and so must you.
One of the things though that I wanted to say that bothers me is when we're talking about Intergalactic and we're talking about Naughty Dog, with Naughty Dog specifically, or no, I was about to say the wrong thing. But I want to say this. That's going to be for The Witcher, what I was about to say. But for Naughty Dog specifically and Intergalactic, people will make a big uproar about things. And even with Naughty Dog, is still applies with The Last of Us 2. And people will just go on and still buy the game. And it's eventually, if you want people to change, you just got to commit your money elsewhere.
I think we're past that. So here's the argument with a lot of that. Now, depending on, I've been looking into it a little bit, trying to figure out sort of sales numbers for The Last of Us 2. It's done pretty well long term, about 10 million units sold. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone paid full price for it.
Right.
But the game cost, at minimum, $250 million to make.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, video games are expensive. And to put that in perspective, let's see, Concord, their failed first-person shooter, now not Naughty Dog's, but Sony's, that ranges from somewhere 200 to 400, depending on whether you believe the rumors or not. And then something I saw said that the Spider-Man games are all roughly in that range, and that the last one I think might end up costing about $350 million. So I'm curious how much money they're spending on Intergalactic, and it's just looking into some of it, and some of the stuff that's come out. They're saying that about 250 developers, which I think when they say that, I think they mean like individual people. It's a little bit weird the way that's worded, because developers to me is like a development team, but I don't think that's what they mean. I think it's 250 people, so they've been working on it for 4 years. So that means that it was started around, which makes sense. It was started around the time that, but right before or right after they launched The Last of Us Part 2. And I don't know when we're going to see this game, actually. I imagine sometime next summer we'll get, because they put this basically CG trailer out. Though there's some people arguing that the last couple of minutes of it is actual in-game footage, and I'm like, I mean maybe, but like I need to see actual gameplay. And if the leaks are anything to go by, the story is not anything.
Wanting.
Yeah, listen, I will. There are a few things that I still will go out of my way, regardless of the quality, to be informed on. Naughty Dog is just one of those things now, because they live in this world of being praised so highly for things I don't think they deserve the praise for. Like I said, on the technical level, like I have no issue with what they're doing. It is really impressive. But that's not the problem. The problem is people being like, well, The Last of Us 2 stealth, it was like the best of the generation, or it's like so amazing. And it's like, it's not really. Metal Gear Solid 2 was doing more back in 2001 or 2, whenever that released, than they were doing with The Last of Us Part 2. Both in combat and in stealth, honestly. And so it's like, it's really weird to see to see the way that they've kind of been handling that. And we don't really need to get into the actress. I do think it's a weird choice. It is really generic for like sci-fi. Can I give you the one? Okay, can I tell you the one? I don't know if it's true or not, but there is one thing from the leaks. It's not really a big spoiler about the story. But if you guys are like don't want to hear anything about it, tune away for a minute. But the allegedly the reason that she has a shaved head is she's hiding her identity. And I'm just like, what? Like, what? Why would that be what you do?
Sounds about right.
That's like the most low effort thing you could do if you were a criminal on the run trying to hide your identity. Wouldn't you? I mean, and this is the thing, man. It's like, this is sci-fi.
At least put glasses on.
Yeah, put glasses on.
That's the classic one.
You know, I probably...
Funny enough, when certain people put on glasses, though, they look completely different. But, yeah, shaving the head, I mean, that's just...
Like, how much of a difference
I'm going to go out on a limb. Who wrote the story?
Neil Druckmann. I'm sure there are... I'm sure there's some co-writers, but he will be taking the center stage as far as writing credits are concerned for the game. Because he's the one that's out there. He's basically... I don't know what his exact position is at Naughty Dog at this point, but he was like co-president at one point, but he's definitely in charge now. He's like really positioned himself off of the backs of, I think, more talented people. Anybody who's kept up with Naughty Dog, I mean, even since like the Uncharted days, knows that like he was not the guy at the time. There were quite a few other people writing wise and just talent wise at that studio that really made it what it is. And then like the rumor is that like he was not the lead writer for The Last of Us Part 1 either. Yeah. And that he was like reined in because of some of his ideas. And then a lot of that stuff is what ended up in The Last of Us Part 2, which everyone, well, at this point it's very polarizing, to say the least.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, man. It's been really interesting.
Even Christopher Reeves, or not Reeves, but Christopher Lee, even talking about that back in the day. Not obviously the video game industry, but certain producers and people in Hollywood just felling up off of the back of others.
Dude, Kathleen Kennedy is in that position.
Yep.
I saw someone today who was like, he's like, sorry to bring up the whole Kathleen Kennedy should probably be fired thing, but he just like listed off, he listed off all of the stuff over the like recent time that's been kind of like failing under that market, and it's like, yeah, why does she still have a job? Like, what does she know about?
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, what does she know about some of the people at that company?
It's
that she's
like
still there.
As massive of a failure as Rings of Power Season 1 was, you think Amazon would have learned their lesson, just been like, scrapped everything and started over. But fortunately, it's not how things work, and it's the same thing with, as you're referring to, Kathleen Kennedy. With as many failed projects as she has, how does she still have a job, you know?
Yeah. Joseph, which Marvel villain would you not kill?
Which Marvel villain would I not kill?
Tevin was asking.
I don't know. I'm just not. I'm thinking movie wise, not comic book wise. Oh, let's see.
That still counts.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to. Do I care enough? Like, at this point, I just want everybody in Marvel dead.
Oh, bro.
Movie wise.
Yeah.
Who would I not kill?
I'm not
Doctor Doom.
That was kind of what I was thinking too. Was Doctor Doom.
I'm not as big in as big on Marvel either as a whole.
Oh my gosh! Jenna's like, which Marvel villain would you step on as they cried for mercy? Oh, Thanos. Bro. Does Captain Marvel count? Thanos. And then there was another one in here. Yeah, Tevin,
Captain Marvel count.
Star Wars Outlaws was a bad game.
Really, I really liked it. I thought
yeah.
the game mechanics were just superb.
I guess we're talking about Game Awards stuff. They announced Witcher 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, people are upset.
They are. Now, let me ask you, David.
Yeah.
What should they really be upset about?
Oh, right, because the big controversy is the way that series designed, which, I mean, I find that to be at the bottom of the concerned barrel. I don't. Most of these people aren't going to buy the game at this point anyway, because CD Projekt Red has kind of like they're regardless of what you think of the DEI stuff, like they've been hardcore into it for years now. Like they're not even hiding it. It's not like with some companies are like, no, it's not true. We're not. That's not how this is working or whatever. CD Projekt Red is like, it's all over their website. Like you know, they have like a whole section about all of that stuff. Like they're not hiding it at all. But the biggest thing for anyone who's like, people are hyped about it, I guess. Like,
hey, you know what? Respect on them not hiding it, even though I completely disagree. At least they're
very upfront about it. Yeah, it's not like they're trying to hide who's like working on that stuff, or like with a lot of the Sweet Baby stuff. They all went dark.
Sweet Baby stink.
But the thing about it, and I guess at this point, this is really a concern for anyone who isn't bothered by any of that stuff, or is still like in this idea that none of that stuff it matters, or it's not as bad as people are saying that it is. Why on earth? Like this is the way that I'll put it. When The Witcher 4 finally releases, if it releases, because we've got like the two games that everyone's talking about right now that are like the biggest on like social media, just showed us what is essentially CG trailers. So we're 2, 3, maybe even 4 years out from seeing these games being like in people's hands. Like we may not even be in the current generation of consoles when these release. I could see Intergalactic coming in, because Naughty Dog does this a lot. I can see Intergalactic coming in on like the very tail end of the PS5 lifecycle. Naughty Dog has a tendency to do that with games. Like when they release new IPs, like The Last of Us, the first one came out at the very end of the PS3 lifecycle. So it's possible we see that before the next one. But
why do they do that?
I don't know. I don't know if that's just the way that it goes. Sometimes they do that because they're trying to get, it's a big title, like first party title from Sony, so they're trying to get those sales in of the PS5 before they announce the next big thing. Like, oh hey, you can only play this here. You got to have our console to be able to do this, and like seeing if they can basically move units, through that process. But I don't know. What were we talking about? The biggest thing with The Witcher at this point in CD Projekt Red is like the only people, like that game is going to release, and I almost would put money on it, it's going to be broken. And I don't know why. Like the only people that you have to blame is yourself if you actually like purchase a game from CD Projekt Red day one and it's busted.
Yep.
Because this is like a trend for them. Witcher 3
complete games.
Yeah, Witcher 3 on PS4. I bought that day one. It was fine. There were like some little things here or there, but nothing for me that was like crazy. But I heard the PC
game breaking.
Yeah, I heard the PC release was terrible. And then, dude, I got Cyberpunk day one, and I played it for like an hour and was like, nope, nah. And everyone goes, but it's better now. They've been working on it. It's like a completely different game. And I'm like, I was like, I just can't go back right now. I probably will. I've seen some of it, and I mean, it looks a lot better than it did back when they first released it. But it's like, why am I?
How it should have been when it first released.
Yeah, like why am I required now to buy or to like spend my time on something that they didn't have ready when they said it was going to be ready, that they legitimately lied about?
Yep.
Like, don't make mistakes about CD Projekt Red. Like, they 100% lied about all of that. And I'm having a lot of fun playing Path of the Exile 2 and Marvel Rivals and Warhammer. I'm enjoying these games that work. One of which is in like beta, so it's, but it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, man, it's ridiculous. And Jenna was saying Hades went woke. Yeah, I like the first one. I haven't played the second one at all.
I'm not familiar with Hades.
It's like Jenna, what's the best way to describe Hades? I'm trying to think of. It's like a roguelite. So like it's I think isometric would be the best way. So it's sort of a. Remember like Diablo 2. You know the camera in that.
Yes.
How it's kind of at a weird angle. So they call that like isometric. I'm pretty sure that's right. And so it's kind of at that angle, and it's like a hack and slash action game. And then like you play one of the kids of Hades, and so like and you're trying to escape. So you can like go see your mother, and like so you do that over and over again, and like the story unfolds as you continue to escape from Hades. It was good, right. good game, good gameplay. But I just I don't know, man. I've been so weird about games lately. Like it goes back to this thing where it's like I am not obligated to spend my time or money on anyone's game, and so I'm a lot more picky about it. To be honest, man,
we were talking about it this past weekend. It's the same thing with movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Like when you see a trailer, I am not obligated just because you like something and you want to see more of it, or as I would like to put it, more crap produced. Doesn't make me obligated to watch the TV show or movie, because that's what the trailer's there for. It's there to convince me to take my time and my money and to go see it. And if it's not, every trailer should make me feel how 28 years later that trailer made me feel last week when it released.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been the standout kind of piece of content recently. It's like, oh hey, like somebody. It's weird. It feels new and also classic at the same time, because it's like, man, nobody's doing this.
No, I mean, like even The Beekeeper. I mean, we knew kind of like what we were probably going to get, but even that trailer last year, which we saw it in January, was enough to make us be like, okay, this is probably going to be a fun, cheesy action movie. So I mean, like you knew what you were kind of getting into. Yep, and trailers like we got with Witcher and Intergalactic, more so with Intergalactic than Witcher, leave a lot to be desired. Now, I'm not really upset with Ciri being the main.
Everybody knew that was, I mean, it was almost, from the minute Witcher 3, like, people started, they started, like, finishing that. The talk was there of, like, Ciri's probably going to be the main character in the next one. And nobody really minded at the time, and it's why I'm just, like, the whole discussion of the way she looks in that trailer, the problem with the internet, Joseph, and I've seen this, is that everyone. I mean, to be fair, I'm saying this as I picked the most trolly image to put up there for our thumbnail. But the thing about the internet is that, like, with what I've seen is, like, people will pick they'll take stills from the Ciri from that trailer that are just like the most unflattering ones.
Yes.
So, like, if you're going to make the argument, like, make it with at least, like, a one that looks relatively normal, and then tell me why, But then, like, that's the way that everything works. Like, engagement is completely based off of, like, rage bait, for the most part. Not fully. I mean, like, we'll do it, and then we're sitting in here and we'll actually have a talk about, like, what's going on. It's why, like, the podcast format. It's why I enjoy doing what we do. It's because, like, there's a little bit of that sprinkled in there to maybe get some people's attention.
But we're trying to be nuanced.
But yeah, I do actually.
And we're not just trying to be negative. We're not trying to be negative or rage bait for the sake of being negative and rage bait. We're trying to constructively criticize, offer some humor. People are more than welcome to pick on us. Many people do if you read any of our
all the
comments.
time. All the time.
The troll room was great at it.
But yeah, man, I think it is like CD Projekt Red has a lot of other problems that no one saw.
Shape of series draw.
Yeah, maybe when this dies down a little bit, the conversation will finally pivot over to like, why on earth would you buy this game after the launch that they had with Cyberpunk? Regardless of where it's at now, because people will say that they're like, yeah, but it's way better now. It's like, yeah, 4 years later. So it's like, why day one would I trust that it's going to be better this time? Because what it comes down to with CD Projekt Red is like, trust me, bro, it's going to be better this time. And it's like, dude,
no, I'm not gonna trust you.
Yeah, and I think they're ultimately, and then Tevin was asking about the lore. Ciri's not supposed to be able to become a Witcher, not in the traditional sense.
Yeah, that's the part that's...
Now, I don't know, man. It's a really funny thing because we got this for the television show too, but they're like, well, Ciri's the main character of the books, and it's like, okay, but like everyone watching it isn't there for her.
Yeah, she's not the star. I mean, say what
she
you
isn't.
Want, but
so regardless of the lore,
they should have put Henry Cavill in the game.
You can have her have like a major borderline main character role in the show, and it still really be like enough of the focus is on Henry Cavill and like fighting monsters. It's like we said, I think one of the things that would have been super successful for them is if they had had more episodes of him hunting monsters.
Yep, your monster of the week.
Because that's one of the things that people, I mean, especially Witcher 3, because there's a lot of people who have never played the first two games. But that's Witcher 3. Like a huge portion of it is going to towns, pulling the bulletins off of the board in town to take up quests to either like kill monsters or get rid of like ghosts or whatever the case may be. And like people like that. So it's like if you're going to put it in a television show and put Henry Cavill in that role, like do that. At least and intertwine that with your story about Ciri, and I think it would have been way more successful. The show had a lot of other problems, but like season 1 is like not awful. It's not great.
No, it's not horrible at all.
But it was
not season 2 or season 3.
No, or that one spinoff. You remember the spinoff?
Oh, what was it called? Blood Witch or something like that.
Blood and something, is that?
Yeah. Oh man.
The Witcher Blood and Sand? No, that can't be right.
Spin off Netflix. Let's see.
What was that?
I'm consulting. Blood Origin. That's
Blood Origin. That's what it was. Yeah. Oh,
good times.
Wow. Man, that show made the second and third season of The Witcher look like phenomenal.
Yeah, it did.
It was bad. Holy moly. I barely remember anything about it. Like, I don't even know if someone was like, well, what was the plot about, if I could even tell them at this point.
Oh, dude, I can't. I'm trying to think as well.
Yeah. But yeah, man, the lore's kind of all over the place at this point anyway, because people kind of argue past everyone about stuff. So when they're talking about stuff, they're like, well, Ciri's the main character of the books. It's like, okay, but people got into The Witcher because of Geralt.
Yeah,
like let's make no mistake about that. Like it's and that's why it's like it's not an honest conversation about that. So we're never gonna get to a place where there's like some kind of consensus with everything. So at this point, it's kind of like, well, we got to kind of wait and see what they're doing. It does look like she's just a straight up Witcher, drinking potions. She has the necklace. She's got the eyes. So I don't know if they're gonna try to do something about her special abilities where it just like manifested in a way that allows her to do that stuff now, and then they're gonna move on. Which I could easily see is that they're going to kind of just like wipe it away a little bit, like push it to the corner, sweep it away, like yeah, she has the elf magic power blood stuff, so no, she's fine, like she can do that now, it's totally cool, and then they're gonna just make the game around that. So we'll see. It's gonna be a long time before either of those games come out.
Definitely will be.
I'm
more upset with her being potentially a Witcher than necessarily her appearance.
I don't know why they needed to make her one. I mean, like, they could have just, to be honest, they probably could have gotten together with the original writer again. Though there's like kind of bad blood between the studio and him now. It's kind of both their faults, I guess. I don't know 100% who is more to blame. He made a really stupid deal with them when he first sold them the rights to the IP. We talked about this years ago. But he made a bad choice doing that, but he also didn't ever think that those games would ever reach any sort of like very, very successful height. So, you kind of can't blame him, but at the same time, it's like, and they work something out eventually. So I think he gets a little bit of a better deal, which was probably fair. But he did not make a lot of money off of that when he first sold them the rights to it. And so they were making gangbusters on the third game in particular. And so it's really funny that he kind of went back to do that. But there's probably some ways they could have gone about it to make it a little bit more faithful to the original material. But I don't know. But at this point, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wait and see. Like I said before, I've got other beef with CD Projekt Red besides all of that, even though that stuff's annoying too. I'm just like sick of like the overpromising and like the like all of that. Yeah, and then I like get the game and it's like garbage, Yeah. Man, really, Alan Wake 2 broke me with that stuff last year. Like it was one of those things that's like I was already kind of in a position of being like I'm just not buying stuff on day one, but I liked the first Alan Wake game and I was like, okay, so like more of that with like a little bit of a deeper story. And again, it's coming off the coattails of sorry guys, I'm still getting over my cold or whatever a little bit. It's coming off the coattails of Control, which gameplay wise is awesome, and then like the story in that is like weird and I don't even know the best way to describe it. Just paranormal and like really out there and maybe not great, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in there that you're like, ooh, I like this aspect of it. And the gameplay kind of keeps you moving through that.
Yeah.
To no joke, one of the worst games I think I've ever played.
Oh, wow.
Dude, Alan Wake 2 is terrible. The plot's bad. The gameplay's just it exists and it functions, but it's so bare bones and so minimalistic. Whereas like the first game was, it's not hard, but the gameplay is like it's got a decent gameplay loop. But it's like that, but like it's just not the same, So I don't know what they were smoking when they made that sequel, but man, and that's another game that like it got risen up as like it won like best narrative at the Game Awards last year, and won some other accolades too or whatever. And it's another example of a game that like it does look good, but it just like everything else about it was not worth your time.
Nope. Not at all.
And dude, it has some of the now. It's funny because the chat was making fun of me for it when the game came when I was streaming it last year, but it's got some of the most obnoxious like jump scares There's a term for it that's slipping my mind. Jenna probably knows what I'm talking about. But you're just like walking around and all of a sudden, like just kind of totally normal. Like it's not even like building suspense or whatever. And all of a sudden something just goes, hooga booga booga booga, and it's not scary.
It goes what, David?
It goes hooga booga booga, like in your face, and it's super loud. And you're just like it just got to the point where like I wasn't even being affected by the sort of like jump of the loud noise and the flash of the image on screen. It literally was I was just like, I need this to stop. Like it's just like egregious the way that they do it. There's a term for it. You can't say that, David. I can't say ooga booga. Like a scary monster. Is that not allowed anymore either? Whatever. I'm a boomer at this point, Joseph. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with all of the things I'm not allowed to say or reference anymore. Yeah, I can't remember what the term is, Joseph, but yeah, there's a term for like just the them doing stuff like that, and it doesn't have
where
like,
it's out of nowhere and doesn't have any. It's not earned.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not a big fan of jump scares anyway. I think it's cheap. A lot of the time, there's very few of them.
I so bad just wanted to scream into the microphone right after you said that, just to see if it would be loud enough in your ears to make you jump.
Oh, man, it'll come to me one of these days. I just don't remember what they call them. But yeah, like there's a great one in Haunting of Hill House, which if anybody's seen that show, they know what I'm talking about. That man. That show was really well made, but yeah, it's really rare that anyone does one and it feels like earned. Most of the time, it's just like trying to get an emotional reaction out of you. Oh, it was so scary because like I jumped and there was like a loud noise, and in reality, it's just really annoying. It's like if you have a friend who constantly jumps out of places and scares you or tries to scare you like all the time. After a while, it's going to be like, okay, dude.
Like I did.
Yeah, that was more with Lassie. Though I still tell people that about that one where one of our roommates used to keep a massive pile of clothes on the floor, clean clothes, mind you. Though I wouldn't put it past Joseph to climb into the dirty clothes either. But our roommate would leave this, I mean, absolutely, like literally a human-sized
like
pile,
like cartoonish amount.
Yeah, of just like clean clothes on the floor in his room, and Joseph climbed into it one day, and just like stood up out of the clothes and just scared the absolute crap out of one of our roommates. I still think it's funny to this day. Like,
it was gold.
Oh yeah. He was easy.
People don't realize that sincerely, there's no over exaggeration. It was a cartoonish amount of clean clothes just in a pile. Like you imagine like a big pile of leaves. That's how his clean clothes were.
Yeah, it was a massive pile of clean clothes. Funniest thing, dude. So yeah, all right. We've talked enough about.
Not here for a long time, but I am here for a good time.
Right. We've talked enough about the Game Awards tonight. I'm looking forward to Onimusha. Looking forward to Okami 2 and potentially Mafia: The Old Country. So there might have been something else that I forgot about in there, but that's the stuff that I'm really
like
looking
a year
forward to.
or two. When did Hogwarts Legacy release?
Last year.
Okay, so I'm a year behind, or 2 years.
Oh, and everybody's like upset because Astrobot got Game of the Year or whatever. And again, like we say this a million times, like who cares about Game Awards or whatever? But Astrobot's like actually a good game. Like it's ridiculous. They're like, these other things didn't win or whatever, and it's just like, cool, man. Like you still like playing that game, right? Like,
well, that's the thing is that people don't have any nuance. It kind of to segue into something else that is unrelated to what we're talking about, but to the point of the nuance discussion of people dissing Astrobot, which is this past weekend was the Heisman vote, and Travis Hunter won. And Travis Hunter, David, he plays wide receiver, which is on offense, and he plays defensive back, which is on defense. And he plays both of them really great. I wouldn't say he's elite. Argument could be made that he is in both positions. But he won the Heisman over this guy named Janty, who rushed for basically he's like 100 and something yards short, 168, 148 yards short of the all-time record with, he's got at least one more game to go. If they win that game, then another game. If he wins that game, then, one more game after that, right? So anyway, I end up seeing like he's elite. He's the best of the best. I put it to you like this. He leads the college football in rushing. His yards after contact, which means the first time someone touches him, he's number 2. So the top 2 rushers are him. If you broke up the stats like that.
Yeah.
I thought he should win, and Travis Hunter won by 100 or so points, close race. But it's getting to the nuance part is people on Twitter are talking crap about Travis as if he is not a great player. And it's like, no, like you can talk well about Janty and say that he should have won, which I agree, without disparaging what Travis Hunter did, because what he did, you don't see like every year, especially at that level. Like there are very few. I can't even think of anybody besides Charles Woodson, which was back like when I was literally a child, like when I was in elementary school, who did it. So in the same way with Astrobot, it's have nuance, people. You don't have to bring down another game unless it's deserving, because it absolutely was horrible.
Which has been the case in the past.
In order to lift, other games above that. But as Dave and I have said numerous times, if you've listened to the show at all, what are award shows these days? It's just politics. It's not about merit.
The Game Awards is literally that industry just patting itself on the back. That's all it is. For the most part, though, and people like read into stuff about like the Xbox being like bitter about like never winning a game of none of their games have ever won like Game of the Year. But that's a whole other conversation. And there's stuff to talk about in there as far as like okay, so like take the stuff I was saying about Last of Us winning, Last of Us 2 winning Best Narrative, and then Alan Wake 2 also winning Best Narrative last year.
Right.
That says more about the industry and its standards than it is me caring about that game winning the award. It's ridiculous that people who consider themselves professionals look at the quality of that writing and go, yep, Best Narrative, especially over the competition.
Yeah.
That's where that discussion really lies. Is that it's just like it's just unreal, and that's why I'm saying it's like it's a pat on the back, and I don't mean this in like a like politics as in American politics, just in industry politics. For that, there's also a lot of that goes on in that, which is one of the reasons Naughty Dog wins a lot. There's definitely, probably some stuff going on with that, and so that's the Game Awards, man. That took up a lot of time. We should, before we go tonight, we do need to talk about, so neither of us saw sorry, neither of us have seen War of the Rohirrim. We will review it at some point.
Yep.
Well, let's just say that. We're going to talk about it at some point. We'll actually review the movie. But it looks like that's going to be getting pushed into whenever it's on streaming. Which, to be honest, with the amount of money that movie brought in, we might see that in January.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we might see it in January on streaming services. Haven't heard great things about it.
I know. I'm interested to watch it so that we could talk about it on the pod.
Craven hasn't been doing well either, which I don't think neither of us are surprised about that.
Who would have thunk it?
Right. So
it had so much going for it.
And it turns out, probably to no one's surprise, but it turns out that the reason that the movie was kind of like rushed out to theaters is so that they could hold on to the rights for the movies. to make Lord of the Rings movies.
The War of the Rohirrim.
Yeah, which is kind of gross. It's a practice that's been done a lot over the years, where someone will release just a garbage. And War of the Rohirrim probably isn't that bad, but there's been a lot of times where people have had like the rights to, say, like a comic book character, and the company wants to keep the rights to that for whatever reason, because they might be making money off of like other people and like selling the rights to them to do certain things with it. So they'll just put out like a garbage product in order to maintain the rights.
I got a great idea, David. How about just putting out a project because you want to maintain the rights, but not rushing it? Now, I haven't seen it, so we'll see. We'll see if there's anything that makes sense and what doesn't. I'm going into it with an objectively open mind to be proven right or to be proven wrong.
I heard like one of the biggest problems with it is it's just boring. That it just doesn't really capture what Lord of the Rings kind of like is, because there's a lot of
I like the idea they had though with telling a self-contained story within the Lord of the Rings within Middle Earth. That's not like directly tied to to the main story.
Me too.
I like that. I like that. I'm like, yeah, keep going. I even like the direction they took with anime. I'm like, you could still do that as well. But
animation sometimes is better for action.
Yep. But with that said, at the same time, it's like I need to see how that narrative is, and that's the most important thing. Your characters, your narrative, how everything is written, and sticking as true to Tolkien as possible. Because again, even though the Lord of the Rings movies are praised, they kind of captured lightning in the bottle, and no one really gives a crap about. I'm not talking about visual style, right? I'm not talking about artwork and stuff like that. I'm talking about narrative wise, writing wise. People don't want to see Joseph write a movie or a TV show and use Tolkien's settings and people and so forth and use them to write my own story or to insert myself. At least they shouldn't. Let me rephrase that. And I don't want to see that from Peter Jackson. I don't want to see that from Philip Boyens. Now, they just used Peter Jackson's name. He had.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He had no. Well, again, I'm not Peter Jackson. I'm not behind the scenes. But if I understand that this was way in production before he ever signed back with Warner Brothers.
Okay.
And this was coming out way before that. Now, I don't know if he had the authority to be like, yeah, no, we're not putting this out. But from what it sounds like, they had to put it out to keep the rights. So It didn't seem, I don't know how much of he was involved in the process even before he signed on. Though with this being Philippa Boyens' daughter, I think was a main writer on it. So yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just unfortunate. I mean, we're getting to the place where, like, in a pretty quick amount of time, there's now more bad Lord of the Rings content than there is good. And
that's a sad place to be, man.
Yeah, that happened with Star Wars. Indiana Jones, actually, I don't know if we count video games, but Indiana Jones is still in a relatively, it's like 3-2 right now. And I don't know if they're ever going to make another movie at this point after Dial of Destiny bombed as hard as it did. Hopefully they will finally let him rest, and I can still just have that trilogy and forget the other two movies ever really existed.
And I'll say this. I know that Peter Jackson is going to be more like a Kevin Feige within the Middle Earth movies that they plan on doing. But I still am hopeful with the team behind it. It can be better. The thing that concerns me is that when you watch The Lord of the Rings, and obviously there's decisions you're making, let me finish my thought. There's decisions you're making from their perspective of what can we adapt, how do we adapt it, and then how can we make this to where we appease the hardcore fans, if you want to call it that, and then also for a general audience. And then that's where Arwen comes in. We want to bring in women and stuff. But in my opinion, I think whether if you have a cast of all women, a cast of all men, a cast of all white people, a cast of all black people, a cast of whatever group you want to say, if it's written well, it will attract anyone and everyone.
Yeah, and if it's respectful to the core audience, like word of mouth is still like a big deal. People
Yep, it's the
don't.
number one,
I
mover of the needle,
yeah.
one way or the other.
I don't think ultimately people care about representation as much as it gets like blown up online. Like,
No, I agree.
I think movies have been successful off their own merits for like a really, really long time, and it wasn't until like 2016 or a little bit before that where some of this started to kind of leak in and these ideas of that. And then, you know, Hollywood being in such a bubble, you know, they were so insular, and then stuff slowly started failing, and then that's where we got to the just like the name calling and all of that stuff. But like, there's a reason that like Alien and Aliens are so popular. There's a reason that people love, you know, Terminator 2 in particular. And it, you know, it's not because like Sarah Connor is a strong woman in that. Like they, or like it, you know, they love her as a character, but it's like that's not a reason. You know, there's this like weird argument that goes around where it's like if so and so, if this movie or this game was made today, people would hate it because they would call it woke or whatever, and you're just like.
That's not true.
It's such a weak argument. Like, what are you talking about? And so it's like I think at some point people just they have to get back. They have to get back to a place where that stuff isn't there. It's not like forced, and like people need to be able to make the games and movies and television shows that they want to with whatever they want in them, and then allow the customer to decide. Because we also have to get away from this like idea, this like consumer, the idea of like we're consumers, and it going back to like customers, and that at the end of the day, Naughty Dog, Warner Brothers, whoever it is, they are selling a product to us. And if we look at it and go, you know, they don't get to come out of the woodworks being like, well, sorry for the fan base being racist, because it's like, you're not going to sell anything doing that.
Nope. Or, you know, we want to get more content, so you better go see it. No, it's on. If you want to get
dude,
better
that
content,
one's crazy. That is such a crazy
show.
one to me, where they're like, you need to support this in order for us to get more or whatever, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't.
That's gonna make me not want to watch it even more.
Where did that argument come from?
The abyss.
It's just like, I maybe someone somewhere said it, and then there was just a group of people that think that is such like a gotcha. When it's like, I'm sorry, I work hard for the money that I make. I will spend it how I choose.
Yep.
Like, I'm not, if, like Marvel, for instance, right? Like, I hardly, we talked about this last week, like, I'm never excited about announcements anymore because I haven't been involved in that, because a majority of what's come out of there has been terrible over, like, since Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Endgame,
I just don't care.
God, Endgame looks like a masterpiece compared to some of the stuff they've put out since that.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I don't care anymore.
Really, it's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's even the same thing with DC. It's like, you know, Superman trailer's going to come out, and it's like, okay.
Creature Command.
Great. I mean, with the exception of Batman, because I think, for me, the Batman movie, better than Witcher Season 1, but like there's potential there. There's good legs there.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got the Penguin, which was superb.
And then it kind of doesn't matter, because unless James Gunn decides to make that his Batman, the second Batman will come out, and then it's like over.
Yeah, I'm just more interested in that and the Elseworld stuff than this tied universe.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, I wish they wouldn't have announced the DCU, and they just would have announced, we're going to make some movies. The first one's going to be Superman and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, well, I guess what it really is like, there's no hope that we're probably going to get anything beyond that Batman movie, because it is like a closed off thing.
Yeah.
It's the first Batman movie, and it's Penguin right now, and then maybe Batman 2. And it doesn't have any other connection to his universe, and I don't think it's going to make enough money to change James Gunn's mind, but it would be interesting to see what would happen if that movie made $1 billion, if the second Batman made $1 billion.
Well, supposedly he's going to try and tie it in. I saw a article or something. He's going to try and tie it into his universe. I'm like, no.
His whole thing is a mess already. We talked about that last week too. Creature Commandos is just it's kind of.
But if you listen to me and David, you can hear how Marvel and DC has lost our trust. It is incumbent upon them to prove us, not to prove us wrong, but to bring us back in. It's not incumbent upon us. The same thing with Middle Earth as well, Warner Brothers included, because the Hobbit, with the exception of the first one, the Hobbit trilogy was trash. Again, with the exception of the first one isn't trash. But it being thrown into the pile doesn't upset me. And then now we got War of the Rohirrim, which from people that I trust doesn't sound like my hopes aren't that high. Haven't seen it yet though to make a final call. But again, it's incumbent upon these studios, these companies, to bring us into it, not for us to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
Warner Brothers was stupid. We should have gotten Guillermo del Toro's Hobbit.
Hype is such a problem a lot of the time. Because people just it's so weird after everything that we've seen that people still just give companies the benefit of the doubt like it's going to be incredible. Yeah. When it's I just don't know, man. I saw somebody on X who they were they made a good point and then a point that I think they're just kind of, it's too soon to call. They're Game of Thrones is basically over. They named off a couple other shows that are no longer around. And obviously we have House of the Dragon, but House of the Dragon's never going to reach the level of Game of Thrones did. So there's basically a empty throne for sort of the big It property right now. Mm-hmm. We just don't have one.
Nope.
There isn't anything that is kind of universal. And I don't know if we're just past that. It's possible that, we may not see anything. I think Arcane had the potential to at least fight for that if they had actually
nailed it.
Yeah, they nailed season 2. But anyway, we're, not bitter about that. And they were saying the DCU has the potential to come in and kind of take the throne. And I was have you seen Creature Commandos? I wouldn't necessarily call that a great start, Yeah. It's
exactly.
It's relatively unoffensive as far as it's not groundbreaking. It's not changing anyone's mind about anything. It kind of just feels like more DC stuff, And I don't know how many normal people are actually paying attention to what's going on with all of that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm curious, if we'll see something, finally some property step up and be here, this is the new thing, There's always the chance for that. Yeah, but there's nothing on my radar right now that really makes me think dang, this is the thing that's going to capture people's attention. And it takes a little while too. Even Game of Thrones didn't catch on until probably about season 3. People were talking about it, but it didn't hit any sort of height of popularity, I don't think, until season 3. Because the Red Wedding was the thing that really, I think, helped to push it out into the public, because people were doing videos of their friends watching it. I've read the books, I know what happens. Here are my friends who were seeing it for the first time, and they were putting their reactions on YouTube. I think that was one of the things that really helped Game of Thrones early on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, real quick before we go. Have you seen all of Secret Level?
No, just the first. I've seen all the episodes except for 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. Yeah, you should probably. I was looking at that earlier. I've seen all of them. I think it's kind of a mixed bag. We talked a little bit about it last week. That 40K episode, I think, is still the best one after watching all of them.
Yeah. Definitely.
I was gonna pull up the episodes real quick just so I could remember what episode was what. There it is. So, I didn't really care for the Dungeons and Dragons episode. Mostly because it felt like it ended too early.
Yeah,
the first one, like, I guess we won't go into. I don't know if anybody really cares. I haven't heard people really talking about it since it released. At least not all that much, so I don't know if it's gotten a whole lot of attention. But yeah, the Dungeons and Dragons episode, like, you're like, okay, it's like whatever. But then there's like a big, what would be like boss fight potentially going to happen, and then the episode just ends.
Yeah.
Before, like, so it feels like they pull the rug out from underneath you. The Sifu episode, you saw that one, right?
Yep.
I liked that one. You should definitely watch episode 3. That's the New World, the Once and Future King. The main character is voiced by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ah, nice.
Secret Levels on Amazon. And then the Unreal Tournament one, you said you didn't see that one, right? Number 4.
Right.
That one's pretty good. It's kind of middle of the road for the episodes. Like, it's not going to blow you away, but it's also not the worst one. Like, it has a pretty good story for the most part. For these being like some of these being only like 15 to 20 minute episodes. Did you see the Pac-Man one?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of that?
It was very what I was not expecting.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I also was just like, I guess with a lot of it, my biggest problem with what they've done with this is that I do want like more context, you know?
Yes.
Like, it is kind of an interesting
Were
thing.
you a bit confused by it?
No, I mean, I got what they were doing. I just, it was sort of like, okay, like, so what now? Like,
yes,
you know,
that's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
with when you got to the end, you're like, okay,
yeah, like I got what they were doing. I guess it was sort of just like, all right, like, and maybe it's a good thing that it was like, okay, I think I would watch a little bit more of this if you gave me a little bit more to like go through. But I mean, it would have to expand a little bit. You couldn't just do the same thing again, you know?
Yeah.
And then, did you watch episode 7, the Crossfire episode?
Yes, I did.
I didn't care for it. I don't think
Really?
I don't think it's my least favorite. I just was sort of like,
is that the one with Keanu Reeves, right?
No. That's the Armor Core episode. That's episode 8. Crossfire is the mercenary.
Warhammer?
No. That's episode 5 is the Warhammer one. And they shall know no fear. The Crossfire one is about these two, I guess they're like competing mercenary groups. And they're trying to go.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're trying to go for this, like, oh, you know, both sides think they're the good guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, it looked nice. It just didn't do anything for me. It's one of those things that, like, it's a little too grounded in reality when everything else is like Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, people returning from, you know, doing like the weird Pac-Man episode, and then you just get into like army folks. It's just kind of like whatever. And then I did really like the Armor Core episode. It's probably my second favorite one. I think for me, the best episodes are the Warhammer one, the Armor Core episode, Sifu, and then the Once and Future King. I really liked because it's kind of more comedic in the way the Once and Future King one, which was nice because a lot of the other ones are really, really serious. So it was nice to have one that was going for a bit more of a comedic tone, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. And it's got kind of a nice, like a heartwarming ending as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think The Rock and Chris Evans has finally found a home for their movie Red One, supposedly on Prime Video.
I almost
film debut with 50 million viewers after fizzling in theaters.
Bro, I almost watched it the other night. So Amazon now has ads on all of your, even though you're paying for Prime, and one of the ads is like Red One available in theaters now and streaming on Prime. So it's very much like it's in the movie theater, but you can just watch it here.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird, like, why would you promote it like that? It's so strange.
No.
Yeah, it didn't do very well. But I'll probably watch it at some point. There's a bunch of stuff I've got to catch up on this year. A few TV shows, and then quite a few movies that I still want to see before the end of the year. So going to be doing that the next couple of weeks, since we won't be recording next week, right?
Yeah, this is the last one. We won't be recording next week. Well, I'll be out the next 2 weeks, and then you said that you're going to have old Justin on to talk about Nosferatu, whatever it's called.
Nosferatu.
I couldn't remember the name of it, dude.
Yeah, so Nosferatu comes out on Christmas. So we're going to go see it that Friday. And then talk about it the next Monday. So next week will probably just be, well, we'll see how things are going. I'll probably do like a game stream next week, just to kind of keep our, keep things moving. But yeah, we'll do some sort of chill game stream. It might be Last of Us, or maybe I'll play something else, just to give myself a break from that. But yeah, man. Anything else before we head out?
Nah, man, that's it.
Cool. Tevin, yeah, Kratos, allegedly the secret level thing is only Nosferatu. Kratos is allegedly going to be in it.
Nosferatu.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Kratos is allegedly going to be in it, but he wasn't in those episodes. So I think there's going to be like a part 2 coming out. Excuse me. And yeah, the Jenna the Warhammer episode's like the best one. And it's available on Amazon. It's a pretty quick watch. I think you can probably get through all of them in about an hour and a half or so. They go by pretty quick, and they're well made. I don't think some of them are, some of them are just kind of like, I don't want to call them half-baked ideas, but like they just end before they probably should. You just kind of like left at least wanting like a bit more of a climax to a few of them. So, all right, Joseph. Well, I guess this is going to be the end of episode 194 of The Underground, and we will, like I said, I'll be back. That'll be right at the end of the year, like the 30th, right? To talk about Nosferatu, and then I'll be here next week playing some game, more than likely. I'll do some sort of game stream. But this is it for the year for you, Joseph.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to everyone, and Happy New Year. And I'll see you guys on the 6th, dude. We've made it. Man, what is this?
Is this
4 years now? 3 years?
Is this year 3?
Yeah, it's got to be. Hang on.
That sounds right.
Oh, we're going into year 4, dude.
This upcoming will be year 4. Oh man.
Yeah, because we started in 21, so 22, 23.
Holy
24.
moly!
Oh my gosh, I had to pull out the fingers and count because I was like, "Is this year 3 or 4?"
We're podcasters. We don't do math. Math is not our strong suit. All right. Well, Thank you all again for tuning in for this episode, whether you're doing this live on YouTube or whether you're catching this on whatever podcast streaming service you like to use when it's not live. Anyway, Merry Christmas to everyone. And we will talk to you guys soon, some of us a little sooner than others. And we'll see you when we see you. And until next time, y'all take it easy.
See ya.